Hey everyone, it's Mark David Heiser from Day Did You Win? And last video I talked about how you as a runner could use a pacer in your next marathon, a half marathon, and what the benefits are to that. Today, I'm kind of flipping the script a little bit here. Why should you consider being a pacer in your next marathon or half marathon? What are the benefits and how can you prepare to be a pacer? So come along and let's talk about it. So a little background into pacing as far as my experience and such. I'll be honest, I've only paced 5 marathons. I do have another marathon coming up in 20 days. I will be pacing at the Glass City Marathon in Toledo, Ohio. I'm very much looking forward to that. I'll be honest, I've had successes. I've had some failures. Just because you're a pacer does not mean that everything is going to go well. And just like any other runner, you may struggle and it may just not be your day. A marathon is very tricky when it comes to that. Some days you have it, some days you don't. You don't know until you actually hit the course. So first of all, I want to encourage you, if you're going to be a pacer, especially if it's your first time or first few times, just know even though you're a pacer, you're running slower than what you're used to help others, doesn't mean it's going to go your way. So just be prepared for that as well. The first thing you should know when becoming a pacer is, first of all, how do you become a pacer? How do you get involved? There's really a couple of different ways that you can do this. One, you can go and reach out directly to the marathon that you're interested in pacing for. My suggestion, start reaching out probably about 6 months in advance. You may think that's early, but at the same time, every race really starts their pacing program at different times. And so if you at least make contact with them, and you say, these are the times I've ran, this is why I'd be comfortable pacing, you at least got your name on a list. Now remember, especially if you're contacting a race directly, they have pacers from years past as well. They're probably, good deal of them are probably going to want to come back and keep pacing, especially if they had a good experience at that race. So they may not take you up on that pacing for that year, but they may also keep you on a list just in case they need you in the future. Or they may say, hey, we can't use you at 3:30, but how about 3:45 to 4 hours, somewhere in there. They might do that. I would not turn that down if it's something you really want to do. If nothing else, it gets your foot in the door for future races as well, for when those other faster spots do come open. The other way you can get involved is contact a pacing company. Believe it or not, they are out there. The one that I am connected with, that I get a lot of my races from, not all of them, but most of my races come from Beast Pacing, BEAST Pacing. You can look them up. I'll put a link down below of how you can get connected with them. And that way you can reach out to them. And what they do is actually they send out emails whenever a race reaches out to them and says that they need pacers. They will send out a mass email saying, hey, we need pacers for every group that the race wants a pacer for. So 3 hours to 6 hours, whatever it is, they will specify that. And what Beast Pacing does is they ask for your last 3 marathon times, and they will probably take the slowest time that you ran, add 10 minutes, and that's about what you're looking at running as a pacer, or slower. They will do that as well. So those are just a couple of ways that you can get involved with pacing marathons. There are other organizations other than Beast Pacing, but from what I've seen, Beast Pacing does more nationwide, and there are a lot of opportunities with them. The next thing I would say as far as being a pacer is just to be prepared, is to know the course. This may be your first time running this certain marathon. For me, the 5 I have paced now, 4 of them were actually brand new marathons to me. Never ran them. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it that way, but that's just sometimes how it happens. What I would say is know the course. Look at the maps. Look at the elevation gains as well. Know where your highest point is. Know when you can tell your athletes, your runners who are around you in your pacing group that, hey, we've reached the highest point. It's downhill from here, or we still have hills to go even up until mile 24 or something like that. Know the course. That way you're able to relay that information to your pacing group to prepare them for what's ahead. Also, as far as being prepared and knowing the course, know the aid stations. Know what aid stations are going to have water, Gatorade. I know you're not going to memorize all this, but especially try to remember where the gel stations are at, or any kind of nutritional station is at. That way, once again, you're able to give them a heads up. Sometimes at a race, though, they will have it marked out before you get to the aid station what's coming up. And that way you're able to relay that information also to your runners. So now let's talk about what your job is actually during the actual race itself. When you first get to the race that morning, generally the race will tell you when they want their pacers in the corrals. Sometimes it's a few minutes, sometimes it's as much as 30 to 45 minutes before, depending on the size of the race, really. But utilize that time. Get to know those who are around you, get to know their names and stuff. Remember, these are the people who are going to be with you for 3 hours or more. So really get to know them, get to know what their experiences are in the marathon. Believe me, they're going to be asking you questions. They'll ask anything from, have you ran this course before? How many marathons have you ran? Anything they can do to ask questions, really, to build trust, they're going to ask you because they're putting their race somewhat in your hands. Now, I say that you're not responsible for their race. You're just responsible for helping them. Ultimately, what they do in the race, that's up to them. But you are there also to encourage them before the race, during the race, and after the race. So basically, be there to support them, talk to them as much or as little as they want. But throughout the race, you're going to be talking. They may not be talking back to you, but at the same time, you need to be relaying information to them. Like, we're a little fast, we're a little slow. And just kind of relaying that information, letting them know what you're going to be doing throughout the race. For instance, for me, I like to tell my runners when I'm coming to a hill, hey, we are not going to push up this hill. We're going to use the same amount of energy that we did on the flat part or even on the downhill. We're going to use that same amount of energy. Now we're going to go slower, but at the same time, we're going to make that up later, especially on a downhill. So just relaying them that information, letting them know what you're doing so that they are aware of what's going on. Another thing I like to make sure that I am telling my pace group that's around me, especially here in the Midwest, when we're coming out of a nasty winter in the spring for a spring marathon, potholes. They're all over the place. As a pacer, I view it as my responsibility, especially since I'm probably the lead runner in our group. Hey, there's a hazard coming up. There's a pothole. There's something, just a stick or something in the course. And just letting them know, hey, heads up. I'm usually raising my hand, letting them know that there's a hazard coming, and trying to kind of direct where that hazard is. That way they know. And so it also helps keep the other runners safe as well. So a lot of communication is important as a pacer. Not just encouraging, but letting them know what's going on in the race and that sort of thing. And then there's also the question of strategy when it comes to pacing a marathon. Some people like to bank time, meaning they like to run fast. That way they have time at the end of the race so that they can slow down or just ensure that they have a buffer. However, most races don't want to see their pacers finishing more than a minute before their goal time. So for my next marathon, I am pacing a 4 hours and 10-minute group. They're not going to want to see me finishing more than faster than a 4:09. So there's a lot of mental math going on, especially in the late stages of a race, of how much time do you have left and how to best get as close to 4:10 for me as possible. And so what you want to do as a pacer, you don't want to go out fast. So for a 4:10 marathon, that's 9:33 miles. Now, granted, that's 9:33 if we were running exact tangents, if we were running exactly 26.2 miles. Obviously, that's not going to happen. So there's going to be probably 4:28s, or not 4:28s, 9:28s to 9:30 will probably be the average mile time that I'm going to be aiming for. But the one thing you don't want to do is go out way too fast. They want you to run as even as possible. Is that always going to happen? No, it's not. You're going to have a downhill mile. You're going to have an uphill mile. They're going to be all over the place sometimes. But the idea is to try to run as even as possible, and that is from the start to the very finish. Now, especially as you're starting, if you are slow or if you're fast, do not panic. For one thing, you don't want to see you don't want the runners around you who are in your pace group to see you panicking. just realize that things are going to even out throughout the marathon and everything is going to be okay. So it's just also some common courtesy moves for you to make during the marathon as a pacer. One, if you are dependent on having music, maybe this is not for you, because you should not be listening to music. Once again, that goes along with you being able to communicate with those who you are pacing during the marathon. If they can't hear you, or if you can't hear them as they're asking you questions, they're going to get frustrated with you and that sort of thing. You got to be able to listen. You also got to be able to communicate. So most races will tell you, I haven't had one say that, oh, pacers, you can listen to music. Haven't had that at all. You might as well just leave your cell phone in a pocket or something like that. Don't even try getting out. Don't even try taking pictures or, videos or whatever during your marathon. Just forget about it. That's why, as much as I love to do race videos and stuff like that, you'll never see me doing one, especially as I am doing, as I am a pacer. I leave my GoPro at home. It doesn't even come along with me. So just remember those things. Electronics and stuff, the only thing you should be worrying about is your watch and that sort of thing. Other than that, leave your music, leave your headphones, just don't even bring them. Leave your phone in your pocket, and just be ready to run without those distractions, really. So really, we talk about the benefits of the pacer to the runners, but there are some benefits for you being a pacer. So some of the advantages you get are, one, typically if you're a pacer, you're getting a free race entry. Now that goes for you to, once again, sacrifice your own race and to help others. So you get a free race entry, which means you still get all the stuff that comes along with it. You get the race shirt, you get all the other swag, whatever the race gives you, the finisher's medal, whatever it is, you still get that stuff. But at the same time, you get it for free because you are sacrificing your race to be a pacer to help others. Sometimes there's the bonus shirt. So a race will say, hey, you're a pacer, you're going to wear this shirt, so you're easily identified during a race. This is one of them. This is from the Go St. Louis 2022 pace team. They gave us shirts. Sometimes they won't give you a shirt, and if you're like with Beast Pacing will expect you to buy one of their shirts so that you're easily identified. Their shirts are not expensive or anything like that. They make them real cheap so that it's easy for you to get. But sometimes a race will get specific shirts for the pacers. You get this on top of the actual race shirt. Some races will actually give you a really nice singlet to wear instead, which I really appreciate that. Basically, it's more stuff for you to run in during your training runs. Also, sometimes, depending on the race, once again, they will give you a free ticket to the pasta dinner if the race is hosting one, or even I've had races offer free hotel stays. Now, when they offer you a free hotel stay, if you are traveling with a group or anything like that, this room is just for you, and you may be sharing it with another pacer. This is not something that you can use for your family or for the rest of the group that you are traveling with. So just keep that in mind. Typically, that's how it works. Not all the time do you get the extra food or even shirt or hotel stay, but sometimes they do. It just depends on the race and depends on what the race is willing to do for you. But by no means should those things, whether you get them or not, dictate whether you're a pacer or not. There's still a lot of advantages to being a pacer besides that. So lastly, what I will say about being a pacer, and this especially goes to those who are doing it for the first time. Try to do a race where you will not be the only pacer in your group. So a lot of races, and I think I've only done one so far where I have been the only pacer in our pace group. So try to find one where there's at least two pacers per pace group. One, hopefully you will get matched with somebody who has experience. I was very fortunate. The first race I ever did was the Air Force Marathon in Dayton, Ohio. And I got paired up with a pacer, and I can't even tell you how many marathons she had ran as a pacer before. It was a lot. I do remember that. But she was actually very helpful to me to get used to being a pacer. She had no issues with this being my first marathon that I paced. She didn't even realize, I don't think, till we got to mile 15 to 20, somewhere in there, where it finally came out that, I've never done this before. And she was actually very surprised because things were going very well for us. And so a veteran pacer will never judge you for this being your first pacing that you've ever done. For instance, for Glass City, I have actually met through social media the pacer that I am going to be running with, and it's her first time doing marathon pacing. So, it's going to be my turn to teach someone or to give some knowledge and ideas of how to pace. Like I said, this is only my 6th one, but at the same time, I do have some experience, so I'll be able to help her out as well. So if you can, try to pace with somebody else for your first time at least. That way you kind of get an idea of how it works and just kind of get some more experience and some advice from someone who has done this before. Other than that, pacing is a great way of giving back to the running community. It is especially as, like I said in my previous video, my PR days are over. My Boston qualifying days are over. Now it's about giving back, and this is a great way of doing it for the running community, is to help others reach their goals. So that in itself is very gratifying. You're going to find as you finish up your first race, you successfully bring people to their PRs and stuff like that to the finish line. They're going to be thanking you. They're going to be wanting pictures with you. By all means, do it. You may never see the picture again because they'll post on their social media and you don't know who they are really. But at the same time, they want to remember the person who helped them reach their goals. So by all means, celebrate with them as they finish. So once again, though, great way to give back to running community. So I want to thank you for watching. And if you have any questions about pacing and stuff like that, like I said, I am not the most knowledgeable person on this. I don't have the most experience. I'm really still a beginner in it, but I'm enjoying it more and more every time I do it. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below. I'll do my best to answer them and get back to you. So thank you very much for watching, and we will talk to you guys later.